Marty, oops, oh,
Sorry.
that's okay. Okay, and Marty kindly agreed on short notice to provide our reflection tonight, but I guess I'm supposed to I will officially call the meeting to order now at 7:03 p.m. Thank you, Marty.
Well, I am an avid reader, and I was thinking today about all the places that trees show up in literature. And just a couple examples, a tree grows in Brooklyn is one, and that unfortunately is a tree of heaven, which we all know is invasive. And it was in Brooklyn too. Another one is the Whomping Willow in the Harry Potter series. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Poetry, it shows up in poetry. Robert Frost wrote a poem called Birches. And then there's Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. And I have my own honey tree. I'll tell you that little story. I was taking a walk on the Burt Gilman Trail last spring. It was June. And I walked past this tree and there was this humming sound. And I thought, what the heck is that? It wasn't a saw. It wasn't a chainsaw or anything like that. It was too soft for that. So I walked back and this tree, flowering tree, was just covered in bees. I was amazed. I'd never seen anything like that or heard it. And another woman walked up and she was just as amazed as I was. I don't know what kind of tree that was, but it was so delightful to hear that and see that tree. That's my anecdote.
Wow, cool. Where was
It's on the Burt Gilman Trail. It's where it goes north from Matthews Beach. If you go north from that parking lot, there's a parking lot right after that overpass on Sandpoint Way. And if you go into that parking lot, the trail goes north from there. So it was maybe half a mile or so north of there.
Oh yeah, I'll have to visit it
Wait until spring. Go like May or June.
next
Yeah.
June. Yeah. Well, or there's a problem, please just wave or something, because I just got that ominous warning that my internet connection is unstable. I don't think we need to do introductions tonight because we only have one visitor and he's heard us introduce ourselves and we know who's a board member and who's a visitor. I'm so sorry for my confusion with this month's agenda.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Mark, you're still a council member at this point, right?
I am for another 30 days or 29 days.
Okay, and we've got that little item about him further down under communications. So I would request with our agenda that we change the last next to last item under old business to review the strategic plan for tree related goals. It was my mistake that it's not the comprehensive plan. So I don't know if you all got my message a couple days ago saying, whoops, I couldn't figure out why I had gotten so eager about the comprehensive plan when it's not being reviewed for 2 years. And then I realized I kept mixing up those titles, and it's the strategic plan that Mark told us the council will be reviewing early in 2022. So I hope you got a chance to just skim that. That's a much shorter document. So is it, did anyone else have any changes to the agenda or additions at this point?
Yeah, I'd like to make a real brief report on the canopy study we've talked about for a while.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that would be under old business.
Yeah.
Okay. Canopy.
About 2 minutes, maybe.
Okay. Doug, thank you. Any other changes or additions? Okay. Can I have a motion for approving the agenda with that change and that addition? Doug?
A second.
Moves. Dick seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
raise your hand so I can see everyone's in favor.
Yep.
Looks good, unanimous. Okay, thank you. Agenda approved. Okay. Cameron, you had on here that we'd approved the minutes for September, but I'm guessing you haven't had time to put those together yet. I didn't see them come out.
Yeah, unfortunately, I still haven't finished those minutes. I've just been bombarded by a lot of different planning applications, and I just haven't had the time to sit down and go through my final edits on it. I've got it like halfway done, but it takes a lot of time because I have to sit and listen to the Zoom recording.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I'm too busy to volunteer to help you with that. Some other time to at least.
Oh, Margaret, I can't hear you.
slowly-
Margaret,
Oh,
maybe you
shoot.
should turn your video off, and that might help a little.
Okay.
It's lovely to look at you, but that might,
Yeah.
you're still freezing a lot.
Some conjecture whether that's
Let's see.
urban myth that actually
Okay.
makes a difference, but everybody seems to think it might.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then the cat can be climbing all over me and you won't even know. Okay, I was asking Cameron if you think at the January meeting, can you at least, do you think you'd have time to get to maybe September and October? And
Yeah,
then,
I think by
we
the
can,
next meeting, I'll be able to catch up.
okay, I
Yeah,
just don't want you to get behind her and behind her.
no, I agree. My goal is to have at least September, October, and November.
Oh,
By the-
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
What I'm gonna do this month is dedicate one day to finishing all these meetings.
well, thank you. I know you guys are swamped. So hopefully in January, then we'll try and approve September, October, November, and then in February, we can catch up with this one in January. Okay. Are there any citizen comments today? I don't see. Did you have any submitted in
Yes,
writing,
there's a hand up.
Cameron? Is there a hand? Sorry, I can't see it.
There's a hand, yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Thank you,
Mike-
Mike.
Mike,
Thank you. Thank you. Mike D here. Thanks for the opportunity to comment tonight. I had two quick comments. One is a number of the cities around us are doing kind of tree code updates and changes and code stuff, and you might check them out and see if you agree with them and kind of see where they're going with that, see if there's something we're missing. In the past, we've had a number of changes to our own tree code, and a number of those haven't been replaced yet, and I think some of those are still important. And we may have to talk to people like Tyson Greer and other people that have been on the tree board in the past that kind of passed some of those through, and we're hoping they were kind of just temporary and would come back. And then the other part that I wanted that has to do more with the Zoom meeting is that well, I guess it's two parts. One has to do with Public Records Act and Open Public Meetings Act. And so on Zoom meetings that just start on time with a whole board of people there are concerns because you hit your quorum before you get the meeting started, and you start putting yourself in a limbo place there where the public doesn't know if you're doing things with a quorum without them being able to check it out. And I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying also it's an opportunity for us to test our equipment, our sound, make sure we're connected to the audio and all that fun stuff too. So that's helpful if you're able to start the meeting a little bit ahead of time, especially if you have a quorum of people or one minus a quorum, because at any moment you could have a quorum and that becomes a meeting, and you don't want to get yourself in a trouble there. All right, thanks. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm not quite clear. Like I started tonight at 7:03. Is that, I don't know how other city meetings go. Do they usually wait longer than that to start?
Well, I think
It's-
Mike is saying that there was a quorum of the board present before 7:03.
Uh-huh.
And so that could be construed, I guess, in some manner as if those people were discussing tree board business, that would be an unnoticed meeting, I guess.
Right, okay. So we just need to make sure to just keep it social if we're talking before 7, which I think we did tonight.
I think it's that we had a quorum before we let the public in.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's the
Part of it,
issue.
yep.
And so I think Cameron needs to stay on top of that if he's controlling that, so that there isn't the perception that Mike pointed out that there may have been business going on in those few minutes before the public was let in. I
So
don't know
how
if we
do-
make the recordings public or not, but that, I don't think we do that or need to do that.
I'm still kind of unclear on how if we all come on time. I'm not clear on how we,
So I guess
How-
part of my point here also that I didn't state out is that we have a number of new people to make sure that you've gone through the Open Public Meeting Act stuff and the Public Records Act stuff. So you know what's expected of you as a person that's part of this meeting, or what to expect in other meetings that are happening throughout the state. Thanks.
oh, you mean sharing with all the members what the open public meeting rules are at the beginning of the meeting?
I think you're even maybe required to go through those trainings within a certain amount of time. I could be
Oh, okay.
incorrect on that, but
Sorry to interject. I think it's only required for city council members. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check the code or the requirements, but from what I remember, it's only required for the city council members. I could be wrong.
Okay, well, if you could look into that, Cameron, and that's a good, Mike D, that's a good tip at the next, I'll find kind of a summary of the open public meetings rules and share them at the beginning of next meeting.
sure. I don't. Oh, go ahead.
If we're
Oh,
having
no,
an in-person meeting, I mean, we would probably all be there before Margaret gavels the meeting to order, but I mean, you can't just teleport in at exactly the moment. So I don't quite understand what the rules are supposed to be. And in reality, in the Zoom meetings, we usually just say, if you see Doug, you're still muted, or Dick, you haven't turned your video on yet, or something like that. It's, pretty not very interesting stuff.
Sure, but the public doesn't know that, and it doesn't take a lot for something to happen. Like there's a case where a city council went out in the hall and made a quick decision about getting rid of a city administrator by a quick vote, and then went, but they took a big, and then the next thing you know, they're in court and you're all dealing with it. But part of it, I believe it's for any. I mean, there's some exceptions to it, but it's required for more than just council members, and you'll learn that in the training. And groups that are advisory, that's where it gets questionable, what kind of decisions you make, and that's also covered in the training too. And the city attorney can also go there. The city attorney actually usually helps do the training on some of these, but it's if you look at the volunteer commission manual that people used to have, that kind of goes over some of the stuff also, what's expected of the volunteer board people.
Okay, well, let's put that on at the beginning of the agenda for next meeting.
It's a big enough issue, I think, big in the sense that there are, several boards and new people on them. So number wise, I think it'd be good if I would like to draw that to Phil Hill's attention, our city administrator, and he may and tell him the concern here, and he would be in a position to either arrange for some training or to provide some brief guidelines for boards and commissions.
Great.
Thank you.
I think maybe the question, Mike, though, is you didn't get let into the meeting early because Cameron didn't see you there. The rest of us can sort of just drop in by clicking in. Do we solve the problem if Cameron just keeps an eye on the waiting room? So that as soon as somebody wants to get in, they can?
I mean, it solves that problem, but there's a number of different issues from as people in a board, you need to know what the rules are, because there's financial consequences for not following certain things. Like they're in the RCWs, if you're part of something, you could have a financial cost to yourself for not following something properly. There's also, when you have a quorum, it becomes a meeting. There's also, at 7:03, the meeting starts at 7 o'clock. Someone may think, oh, it's not happening. Even though the little thing says, we'll let you in soon. There's a number of different things there. So, kind of like Mark said, and this isn't limited to this group. Yeah, the Park and Rec Advisory Board has a bunch of new people, and so those people We're trying to figure that out. And there's another group too that I think we have that also is working on some of that. So no, that helps, but it doesn't answer it. And plus there's also the part with checking your equipment. I try to log in 15 minutes early, but I can't check my sound until the meeting starts.
Mhm.
And so if the meeting starts and then once the meeting starts, I don't hear anything until I push how I'm connecting my audio.
Yeah.
So unless I'm watching my device, I don't know if I'm trying to multitask and do something else, you could be going for a while before I figure it out. Sometimes it happens to me with council meetings, but I'll stop.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no, those are good points. Thank you. And I'm a newbie, so I'm obviously I'm still trying to learn.
No problem. Thank you.
So Mark, we'll put that on the agenda. And if your 30 remaining days don't include our next meeting, you could communicate with me and Cameron and we could share what you find.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Okay, so then the next meeting is going to be held virtually on Wednesday, January 5th. Agenda and other materials to come from Cameron before that. Okay, under communication.
Wait, Margaret,
Oh, sorry.
I wanted to, I don't know if this is the appropriate portion of the meeting to bring this up, but I was having discussion earlier this evening with Ashley and Steve Bennett about potentially changing the meeting date of the tree board to either the second or third Wednesday of the month.
The second or third Wednesday of the month.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't know how set in stone this is. Is it just something that members agree on?
Pretty much, yeah, because within our code for the tree board, it just says that the tree board, this is under chapter 2, subsection 35, and then subsection 010E. The board shall determine a regular meeting schedule, but meetings shall be no less frequent than quarterly. All meetings shall be subject to the Open Public Meetings Act. So there isn't like a set date within the code that we're required to have the meeting.
Okay.
We're required to have the meeting at least quarterly.
Okay. So it sounds like it would work better when Ashley can attend or when Steve can attend for them, if it's the second or third Wednesdays.
The sort of like going thought process behind it is that Ashley, she provides a monthly tree permit list.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times it's either the first, well, not a lot of the times, but this is the second time this year that we've had a meeting fall on the first day of the month. And it's really difficult for Ashley to produce that document so quick, like the turnaround time.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Really swift.
Yeah.
And if we were to move the meeting to a later date in the month, she'd be able to provide that document prior to the meeing with the other meeting materials that are going out. And then she'd be able to provide more detail about like, or more background of like why one person is applying to remove X amount of trees or in X area, or why someone likes more.
Yeah. No, I think that information is super helpful when she provides it.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, sorry.
It's really difficult right now for her to be able to do that just because our turnaround time is just so like quick.
Yeah.
That's a great reason for changing.
Yeah, we're a small enough group. I think we could just ask individually. Is there a preference, or does anyone have a problem or a preference with second or third Wednesday of the month? I see Doug saying no. Marty, how about you?
I could probably say yes to the second, to either one actually, but I'd need to check my calendar. I don't think I have a regular meeting on those.
Okay.
Well, we don't necessarily need to make a decision at this meeting. We could like just keep it an idea, an option to move towards, and maybe propose it as an item for next meeting.
Okay.
Bring-
Could we temporarily, since the January meeting would only be the 5th, which maybe doesn't give her enough time, should we just vote to push the January one out a week farther?
I'm not sure if you can, just because,
Okay.
um,
It's already in the agenda.
yeah, we've
Okay.
already approved the agenda. I'm not sure if we can add an item mid-meeting.
Oh, right, okay. Bryn, did you want to comment?
Yeah, that's a simple issue. It sounds like Marty is the only one that has any time constraints. I mean, it seems like a very easy thing to do it the second Wednesday of the month. Let's do it, get it over with, and that way, when January comes, it's the first of the year, it's the first month of the year, and it's done, bam.
Well, the other issue is that, so the planning commission holds their meetings the second Tuesday, the second Tuesday of every month. So it could be problematic.
Oh, so we should do it the 3rd, so that if Ashley or Steve are going to attend both, they're not doing.
I have a conflict with third Wednesdays.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mark, when are we, your replacement is our representative?
Was that a question to me?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
When will you think we'll know who is replacing you, the council representative to the board? Because we ought to
I
check with
would
them.
guess, I would guess not until January.
Yeah, because we
It's
want
not-
to know that they're available.
Yeah, and I would say be pretty certain that there will be a council member assigned to be the liaison with this board, but that's not a certainty either. But I think it's quite likely, but it wouldn't happen until January. They'll be going over a lot of these kind of assignments and also regional assignments that many council members have.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe with the rules, we have to stick with January 5th for January, but we can talk to the new council rep in January and figure out if we can push it out a bit to the 2nd. Okay.
Yeah. And the
Well-
meeting,
No, I was just going to say, it sounds like Cameron, you have a sense of this group that the second Wednesday would work better than the 3rd. And maybe you need to take that information back. And it sounds like I would think this group needs a proposal that's consistent with that level of availability before, we got to be sure that the people you were talking to about changing the date really want to do it and what's best, what they would prefer.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like we'll go ahead with January 5th for now.
Mhm.
And at that meeting, we'll discuss moving the date. Okay, but we will not move it to the 3rd Wednesday because we don't want to lose Dick. And maybe Marty will check her schedule and see if if the second one will for sure work for you.
And we need to check with Julia,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, Julia, yeah.
and we
Thank
can't have the February date on the agenda before we approve the agenda at the beginning of the January meeting. right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
We need to have that ready to go before we approve the agenda. Or leave it blank on the
Yeah, so
agenda.
maybe we'll move that down to the very last item on the next one. How's that?
for a meeting date,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
Can we?
it can come
just say
after
approve
we.
Meeting date
have the
without
discussion.
putting in the agenda what the new date will be?
Ooh,
Maybe the public needs to see that.
Sounds
yeah.
like a catch-22.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, you can't change it without it being in the agenda. You can't put it on the agenda without changing it. So maybe we have to exhibit a little flexibility here, a little reasonableness. If you put
Yeah.
discussion of meeting date,
Cameron, can you check if that's allowed for us to just have the agenda item saying
like,
next meeting date to be discussed at this meeting or something?
yeah, I'll ask Steve about it.
Okay,
If there's some short period of time at which the public needs notification, like a week, I think, on that order. So I think you could publish whatever you want, whatever looks, whatever's following the course that we've been following here. And if it comes a point where you change it during a meeting, that announcement could be made some other way, either on the website or even a news flash or whatever.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments about meeting date? Okay. Now I'm moving on to communication. Cameron, do you have any update info on the ST3 projects?
The only update that I have is that the city is continuing to have meetings and negotiations with Sound Transit. And then Margaret had asked me if there are going to be any more public comment period opportunities coming up. And at this point, from my understanding, the only public comment periods that are upcoming are those that are going to be part of the local permitting process of the project. Sound Transit will have to pull permits with the city for this work, and more than likely they will be publicly noticed. I don't see how they wouldn't be, just due to the scope of their project, but you will be able to provide public comment during the noticing period.
Okay.
But at the CPID level, for the determination that Sound Transit is making, or what their process is, from my understanding, they've already closed the public comment period.
Yeah, the initial one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there will be further opportunities at the local level to provide public comment.
Okay. Well, if anything comes up between our meetings, can you send out a notice to us, or
Yeah, I can send out an
let
email
us know?
providing update.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're gonna need to get critical area work permits. They're gonna get tree removal permits.
Yeah.
And the city's the local authority for permitting for those projects. They can't work on those
Right.
projects without getting permits through the city
Right.
first, especially with critical areas.
Okay.
With the critical areas work permit and the tree permit, obviously.
Okay. I know Ashley made a comment about, like, when their design is at a 60% done phase, that we might be able to see what their plan is at that point. And I would think that would be before they're applying for permits, wouldn't it? I just want to make sure that we don't get involved too late when.
I'm
but
gonna
is-
put that down. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that to see
Okay.
if that's possible.
Yeah, I just don't, I would hate for us to find out so late in the game that there's not much we can do to make suggestions or critiques or whatever.
There's still critiques that you can make once they come to the city to get permits.
Okay.
They're able to
Okay.
provide comment on the environmental portion
Okay.
and the design and how it impacts trees and critical areas within the city and the overall project as a whole.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that we're at the final point where it's all done. They don't have any approval from local government to move forward.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry,
Of course, yeah.
New to this. Okay.
Of course, yeah. And I'm not sure where they're at in terms of their land acquisition phase, but I'm sure that that they're probably not even close to getting permits with the city, but I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't been involved with the process. But they will be applying for permitting through planning eventually.
Okay. You'll be the one who hears about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure you'll be up to your eyeballs in it. Okay. Did anyone else have comments or questions about ST3 at this point? Okay, okay, the next item is vacancies on tree board. So Mark Phillips, you're with us just for another 30 days. Actually, that sounds morbid. You're in your position for just another 30 days.
Probably with you all for another hour and a half.
Okay, yeah.
No, in spirit of, yes, that's right. My term ends the end of the year, along with John Risha's term and John Wright's term.
So how did you choose to be the liaison to the tree board, or do you just get assigned?
Yeah, I chose it. When I say assigned, that's kind of a after the fact. It's something we kind of agree and have an affinity for. So I've always had an affinity for the work that the city's done with trees and tree ordinances in the past.
Okay.
And I knew many of the members that time anyway, the members of the tree board when it was formulated, and since gotten to know several people I didn't know them. Yeah, so I asked for that. I think the council could have decided, no, that's not going to work. We better have somebody else to do that. Or, it's conceivable. It is conceivable. It is kind of a personal preference, really. I don't think the council is going to force somebody to be a liaison to the tree board or the parks board. But it's good if it happens. So, and I think the council and deputy mayor really, believe that, and are going to try hard to be sure that the boards and commissions that we have do have council liaisons. Certainly, the planning commission does.
So do you have a council colleague who you think would be good, and are we allowed to lobby for them to be our liaison?
I know that there are people with strong environmental credentials. I think Larry Goldman would be great, and I think Tracy Furatani would be great. Just speaking of new people, they'll be looking at other kind of regional work that they want to do, and that the city feel that the council feels would be strategic to have council members working on solid waste or transportation or Puget Sound Regional Council matters and things like that. So they will be pulled in several different directions like that. And but I think a lot of folks have had several of those kind of assignments. One within the city, like tree board, and then one or two outside the city or external kind of working too. So
am I allowed to reach out and to council members and say, like, hey, I see that you have environmental interest.
You absolutely are.
Okay.
You absolutely can do that. You can talk to them individually, send them a note, give them a call.
Okay.
You could send Deputy Mayor Cass over a note saying you're thinking about, you think it'd be good to continue having a council liaison, and maybe Tracy or Larry would be good. What do you think? Yeah, please do that. It's probably helpful too to do that. I've done a little bit of that I'm also a representative to the Lake Ballinger Mackler Creek Forum, and I know that I'm hoping that Tom French, who has done some of that in the past and has deep roots here, will kind of fill that role in the future too. So I've been lobbying him, and so you feel free to do that.
Okay. Do any of my fellow tree board members think that have an opinion about a specific council member who might be a good replacement for Mark? Not filling his shoes, but a different another liaison. Okay. Well,
That's a good question, because I think you do. I'm sure that some of you have formed opinions about folks that might be good to do that. But
I think Dick, if you're trying to say something, there you go.
It's really been helpful having Mark
Yeah.
as our liaison meeting with us. He's been able to answer so many questions about, city and council related things that we definitely want to have somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess this the time to say thank you so much in my short time of knowing you on as the board liaison. I've really appreciated, especially as a newbie, all your knowledge and expertise.
Well, that's nice of you to say, Margaret. I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of your sentiments about that. It's been great for me to do this and to see the quality of the people that are attracted to supporting the trees in our city.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Our next item is Chair
Before you go
Cass.
on-
Oh,
before
sorry.
you go on, There
What
might
was
be,
that?
there might be some advantage to having somebody who's already on the council, who's been in the council for a while as our liaison. Because
Yeah.
Mark, as maybe you pointed out, Margaret.
Yeah,
Mark has provided us a lot of information about how the city works, and
right.
I was really impressed with, I can't remember his name, Coleman and Furutani as candidates. And as people, they'd probably be great members of great representatives of the tree board, but they aren't going to be able to provide the sort of experience that you provided. So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
That's a good point. And also, the new members will not be pushed hard about those regional assignments, those external kind of workings. That there is definitely an opinion there that it's good for people to kind of get their feet on the ground within the council, before they step out representing the city outside of those kind of. So, which on the one hand might mean that it would be easier for them to plug in, one of them to plug in to something that's closer at hand. But I certainly hear Doug's point, and that might be something to be taken into account. Even if it were a new person, they got a direct line to the deputy mayor and to Phil Hill, our administrator, and the mayor, which you all do. But if as a council member, you can kind of the mayor will answer your call eventually.
Yeah, your experience has been really helpful to me since this is my first time volunteering for the city, so I don't really know how stuff works. So that's a
I
good
think,
point,
Doug,
Doug.
if somebody is enthusiastic about doing it, I think regardless of their length of service, I think it would be good to jump on that and have them work with the tree board. But I
Okay,
do hear your point. I'd take it up with Philippa.
okay,
Margaret. Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you. And the Chair Cassidy announcement, well, this is, for my family, it's big news. It's not that big, but we are moving, but only 8 minutes away. My husband and I are downsizing, and we bought a little house in Briar. So we're not moving till late January. And I'm happy to stay on the tree board, at least for a while. Apparently it is within the rules for the tree board to have oh, thanks, Dick. I got a thumbs up. To have a non-Lake Forest Park resident. But that especially just points out that that we do have a spot open. So thanks, Bryn. So as you guys, I don't know if you have more ideas about reaching out to folks in the city. Yeah, thank you, Cameron. She'll be comprised of no less than 7 persons who reside in the city. Yeah, and as you know, I don't have any special horticultural experience, so I don't know if I strictly qualify anymore. You guys will have to decide. But we need to be on the lookout for another Lake Forest Park resident, and we talked about maybe a retired or an arborist who's retired or has the time to participate would be especially helpful. So if you guys can put out feelers for that, eventually I should probably switch my loyalties to Briar, the whole 2 square miles of Briar. But for now, I'll stay with you because this means a lot to me and I enjoy it. So that's my announcement. Okay, moving on to the old business. Doug, can we just plug you right in here before I forget? Canopy study.
can you let me share my screen? I've just got like a three slide PowerPoint that
Yeah.
shows stuff.
Let me give you privileges. Give me 1 second. Okay, you should be able to now.
You guys see this?
Yep,
All right. So basically, the bottom line of the canopy report, I think you all know, this is this study is based on LiDAR mapping, and LiDAR is basically kind of like a light-based form of radar. So just basically they fly over and they can just see how high the canopy is. They can see where the ground is and how high the first return is. And if they get if they get one return and they get another one just a little bit later, they say, okay, the tree canopy is 20 feet up in the air or 30 feet up in the air or something like that.
Mhm.
Or if they don't get a return from the top of the canopy, they can say, okay, there's no trees there. I guess really the most important thing is that whatever the tree board has been doing over the past 10 years, 15 years has been working. The tree canopy increased from 44% in Lake Forest Park, increased from 44% to almost 49% during that period. So we are gaining in canopy. The report includes a number of maps of the city. I got the sort of whole map here on the left, but if you blow it up, you can see individual yards and individual canopies. So let's see, I had mine not found on here at one point. Oh, here. This
yeah,
one,
I can,
all the trees
yeah.
is our property. And at some point we have to figure out which one of this stuff, what to put on. Well, two things. We need to write a short report to council. I think Ashley and I will work on that, but that'll really just be the high points. But then we also need to decide what we want to have on the town website representing this study. And I think that's something Margaret and Richard and I agreed to do that. So we can look at, see if this is the picture you want, or this is, whoops. No. This was one that shows tree canopy by tree canopy. I think red is less than 15%, orange is 15 to 25, light green is 26 to 50, dark green is greater than 50%. You can see what you might expect, that this area here that has a view out over the lake has lower canopies. This is just water here. That doesn't really count. Some areas up here have less canopy, but this is another, again, thing we might want to put on the town website just for people to have a look at and see how their local canopy compares with other people in the area. So that's where it is. I haven't really started working on it yet, but this is the sort of thing we'll have to make the report from.
Doug, I think there is a map like that on the city's website. Is it the older one, the
Yeah,
2008 one
That's
then?
2005, actually. That's
Oh,
based on
okay.
2005 data.
Okay.
And this one will be based on 2016 data.
Okay.
It'll only be 5 years old.
I have a question.
Sure.
Would you happen to have the GIS shape files for the previous map?
Previous maps? I certainly don't know.
Not the previous map, but the map for the 2016 study.
Slide
I
number
don't know much
2.
about GIS files.
Sorry.
Is that what the one is with the yellow shapes?
Cameron, is that what you're asking about? Slide
Oh.
number 2?
Yeah, if Doug knew, or not Doug, but if Doug had the GIS shapefile for that map, or if he knew if it's available. I'm not sure. We might have it on it within company files, but
Well, Ashley sent these files to me, so she has everything I have.
okay.
I don't know anything about GIS, so I don't honestly know what you're talking about.
Shapefile, it's like it's a type of file that contains like the mapping information.
The report they sent to us has a number of references to, file locations and things like that. So it's probably in there somewhere.
Okay.
And if it's not, I'm not going to be able to help you. But Ashley sent this all to me. It's big, so you'll probably just want to have her hand it to you at some point. For me, she put it on Dropbox and I was able to pick it up. But it's these things like this one are about 20 megs each, and they don't email well.
Yeah. Okay, thank
So
you.
Doug, when it said that the percentages from a year and then it said the report was 2 years later, is it just because it took that long to put the report together, or is the data actually 2 years taken over a period of 2 years?
Oh, well, as far as I know, somebody, I'm not even sure if it's a private company or the state, flies these LiDARs every 5 to 10 years.
Mm.
And then whoever did the report just went back and looked at the most recent ones, and the report I think was
Oh.
commissioned in 2018, or maybe it was finished in 2018. And they looked at the most recent data at that point, which was 2016 data.
Oh, so it's something the state does. It's not even something Lake Forest Park pays for as its own project, huh?
Oh, no, that's one of the things in some of the stuff I read says, it's the whole state. They may have to pay to use the stuff. But
Oh, I
the
see.
flying is done by either the state or some private company.
I see.
I'm pretty sure it's the county that
Oh, yeah.
provided those aerial photographs that were used for.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Doug, do you
cool.
happen to
So-
know what the difference between ground level and canopy was that they had as a minimum cutoff to count as canopy?
I think it's in the report. I can find out and email you later.
Yeah, I think it would be good to know, since we talk about what tree height we want to have people use in the ordinance for replacement trees. And so it would be good if we were consistent with the canopy survey.
Okay, I can sort of poke around while we're finished going on to the meeting and see if I can find that information.
It's
Yeah,
no
okay.
rush. If it's with the report, that would be fine.
Yeah, sounds like that'd be helpful for everyone to know. So if you don't find it now, you could just tell us at a future meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Did anything else about that you wanted to share, Doug?
Oh, just want to let people know
Yeah.
that some at least minimal progress is happening in getting, so we get the 26 to date results from the 2016 mapping out by early 2022.
Okay.
And so we'll have a map on the town website that is only 6 or 7 years old instead of 17.
Yeah, yeah. But so the next,
And
so the
and of course,
county is maybe, oh, sorry.
yeah, and this is of course important too.
Yeah,
And the report breaks this down a bit by zoning and parcel size and things like that. I haven't really looked at it and thought very hard about which stuff would actually be interesting for the council to know, what would be interesting for the rest of the tree board to know, and what can just be left in a report that's in the planning department's files.
so they might have split it out between like residential and commercial.
Yeah, they did quite a bit of splitting. I can't, again, I don't have the thing right here. But yeah, and I think at one point they said, property size or parcels above a certain size have so much canopy cover, and parcels below a certain size have so much. And there is a correlation. The bigger parcels have more canopy. That's not too surprising. That data, again, maybe Margaret, you and I can, or you and Dick and I can discuss, and Ashley can discuss what the council actually wants to know.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm making a note about this. And since you are the tree guys, whenever I get to present this to the council, I'm going to need your help, or you to just do it. So
I was just thinking we send it to them.
yeah.
Mark.
Needs from this. Sorry for the silence. I'm just making a note from this report. Okay. Okay. Anyone have any questions for Doug at this point? Okay. Thanks, Doug.
Yep.
That's so interesting. It's better than I thought. Okay, Cameron, do you have any update on what's gone on over the past month with the McAleer Creek project, or do we need to wait for Julia to be here?
I don't have an update on,
Okay.
we'll need to wait for Julia to be here.
Okay, so we'll table that till next month. The next item is the 2022 tree inventory update. Cameron, I'm gonna call on you. Do you have any news about that? Especially, yeah,
At this point, I don't. I spoke with Ashley and she told me that she's still working on it.
okay. So we still we don't know if the city has decided to go with a consultant or to give Ashley more hours to do it.
I'm not sure at this point. No.
Okay. I'm worried that it's gonna start getting to the late point that we were at last year when it had to be canceled because it was.
Yeah, I am too. Just throwing in my thought too. I was under the impression from conversation with Steve Bennett that I guess by December, there would be a firm plan. So maybe we're a little early in the month. I thought that he was going to have a pretty good idea about how the city wanted to approach it and be ready to share that with you all.
Yeah.
Including some of the details of an RFP, if there's an RFP involved.
Is it kosher for me to reach out to him and then somehow share that info with you all, or maybe I just need to share it before the next meeting with those of you who volunteered to work on that, which was Ashley, Doug, and Dick.
You know, Margaret, it would be, the answer to a lot of these questions is yes, it would be good to talk to these people. I mean, you know, Cameron has a certain connection there, being a staff member, but you actually have a different and in some ways a stronger connection by being a citizen who's volunteering her time to do this work for the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Steve would enjoy hearing from you.
Okay. Well, whether he does or not, I will talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll report back to you guys because I just really appreciated that Dick and Doug were willing to work on that, and I don't want to miss out on it again like we did last year by getting too late of a start. So yeah, thanks, Mike D. Okay.
I have the information Dick asked. It's 16 feet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They decided, whoever did the analysis decided 16 feet would get the mainly trees, but not too many buildings, because obviously you can pick up buildings.
Mhm.
So that's the number they chose.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, the under the 21-22 work plan, the first, so this was just looking at our plan and seeing what we'd agreed to do at this time of year. The first thing was reviewing the intern tree removal and replacement data project, reporting findings and making recommendations to the council. And this is something that I learned that actually it was a partnership with the Stewardship Foundation. Julian from the Stewardship Foundation was telling us about that. And I saw the problems that the interns identified when they went through all this data on tree removal and replacement. But sorry, I'm kind of taking over, Cameron. Did you want to talk about this item?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, I don't have a lot to say because we just got it, the report from Julian a couple days ago. So that's something I can send it on to all of you. It's really interesting. There's a summary that's only about 6 or 7 pages, and then the very detailed work that these interns did, going back, looking at all the data, because one part of it was focused on tree removal and replacement, with the concern that its impact on salmon health and stream health. So I'll send that out to you, but they had some problems identified with some suggestions for solutions that seemed really helpful to us. And I think some of you who were here before I was, who worked on those tree code revisions that were submitted to the council, I think I suspect you took these into account when you came up with your tree code revisions. It was things like replacement trees. People don't have to prove that they've replaced them. They're not monitored. A problem with the tree list canopy projections being overestimated. And issue with the replacement tree choice not necessarily being natives. I know those are things that were in the tree code revisions that were presented to the council. So I'll just send that report out to you, and we can just keep those suggestions in mind. It looked like the interns worked hard for a couple of years to examine all the data from the city and come up with these, identify the main problems and what the solutions might be.
I try to interject, but I forwarded out the message that Julian sent. to
Oh,
Mark
thank you.
to all the board members.
Okay. So that's just, I guess that's something we need to look through as we examine these other things, like the strategic plan, the comprehensive plan, all our different projects. Like, people have done a lot of work, you guys and these interns and the Stewardship Foundation. I don't want their work to be for naught and their findings to, go unused. So maybe we can talk about that some more at our next meeting, since we didn't get to look at it for tonight. Making a note.
Yeah, I would like to think that the tree board members had that information in front of them as they were working on those suggested ordinance amendments.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
don't
there's-
remember that being the case. I don't know. Richard, you may recall that, or somebody who was around at that time. Doug, I think that we were working that just before you came on, I think.
Mhm.
So I don't recall that it was like a, point by point lessons learned from that work that then helped to formulate the recommendations for ordinance changes. But it does sound like I guess there's likely a correspondence, as you were mentioning, Margaret.
Yeah, not all though, but some. So that kind of brings me to a question of the, so it was about a year ago that some of you who were on the board before I was, made this really detailed suggested update to the tree code, and submitted it to city council. I think it was exactly a year ago. I think it was December. And apparently city council hasn't voted on those changes. So I have a message into Philippa Cassover. Is that how you say her name?
Philippa.
Philippa. I
Yeah,
was stressing the wrong syllable.
yes. When did you send that note to Philippa?
Just a few days ago.
Okay, well, I saw a note from her to Steve, raising that point.
Okay.
Oh, so
okay.
I think you're getting some response from the deputy mayor, and Steve in fact responded to her by giving her a fresh copy of the amendments, the proposed amendments.
Okay.
And Deputy Mayor Castlever indicated in the note that I was included on that she would like to see the council take that up soon after the beginning of the year.
Okay. What I'm wondering is, at this point, when a year has elapsed, are they kind of a done deal, or do we want to examine them again and potentially add anything else? Since the city still hasn't gotten to them, like some of these suggestions from that intern tree replacement study.
I don't think we've seen the intern tree replacement study, right? That hasn't been shared.
No,
Cameron?
that's what Cameron just now
Right.
forwarded to you guys.
For month after month after month over the last couple of years, we've been asking about it and told that it was in preparation. And so I'm
Yeah.
glad we have it now, but
Yeah.
we haven't had that in front of us for any of this, any of the work we did on the changes to the ordinance, recommended changes to the ordinance.
My sense would be to separate those two out and not see the recommendations to the council on ordinance changes, dependent on some fresh knowledge coming in from that 2-year-old, 3-year-old study. that's my sense after it. I think because there were some very concrete and specific recommendations that were made.
Mhm.
My sense would be to try to move those ahead. And it is true that in this group now, there are there's at least 2 new members who have not seen that material. I think Doug has seen it, but wasn't a part of the conversation.
Mhm.
I hate to think of the idea of reopening that in any way, frankly, because Richard would recall it was a tedious process to work through that material, and I think came up with a good set. It probably, I'm sure it would be good for the members of this tree board all to know what that document looks like now, and Steve sent that to Deputy Mayor Cassover, Cameron. So I know it's available, and it's just a marked up version of the tree ordinance with some comments and some explanations in the column, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But I would be really leery of using that as a way to say the tree board ought to reopen this and kind of work through these again. I
Yeah.
know Doug had a specific point that he was hoping to discuss a little further. But even that one, I'd be very cautious about making major, but I think the tree board, you all should know, should be familiar with what that is that is being put to the deputy mayor, which will in turn be put to the council.
Okay.
One
Well,
of the issues that I think is still possibly open and can be addressed is that the composition of the recommended tree list, which the document, the ordinance just says that there is one. I think we can make amendments to that with working with Ashley without having necessarily to have that be considered part of the ordinance document itself. What do you
Okay.
think,
Mhm.
Mark?
No, I think that's probably right. I think that's right. I think the issue and the recommendations that were made by this board that probably will be the most, that will have the deepest conversation would be the recommendations to change the definitions of the exceptional trees. To make a smaller size tree fit into the exceptional tree category, which affords it additional protections from development.
Mhm.
And even though, so I think that'll be one thing, but even so, it's not a big change it's recommended. It's kind of gradually reducing the size of trees that fall into that category. And I think, it was Richard and Gordon had done some work looking at just doing some surveying of trees and thought that maybe that was very well based, the idea of making the definition of exceptional trees a little bit smaller, the size, to more accurately reflect what was really out there if you went out and started looking around at trees.
And also to make it more consistent across species. That the original list had a sort of a different diameter for every species on the list practically. And for several of them, some of them that's merited, but for others, it made sense just to have a consistent size for, I think, for enforcement and for just the public that may not be able to tell a Douglas fir from a grand fir easily, to know that as long as it's 32 inches or whatever we decided on, that's the standard.
So it sounds to me like it would be good for you all to discuss that early on, like in the January or February meeting for sure.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
maybe to communicate to Deputy Mayor Cassover, Margaret, that the tree board intends to do that, just to refresh yourselves about what's in that document that's being proposed to the council.
Yeah. Okay.
That might help her with the timing that she wants to put it on council agenda.
Yeah. Is that okay with everyone if we talk about it in, we can send them out to everyone. I know there's a good, Dick, you and everyone else you worked with on those, you have a really good, helpful summary of the changes in one document. And then there's the actual code with the, things crossed out and things added in.
Yeah, I think that version that has the markups on it would probably be the easiest way to walk through it. So we could see what the original code said and what our recommended changes are.
Okay. And then you also will all be able to read that, the summary of that interns study, just to see if, I don't want to open Pandora's box and mess with all the obviously hard work that was put into it. But if there's something that pops up that people are really adamant about adding before the council finally votes on it, then at least we will have all seen that, what their study produced. So Cameron, we can put that on the agenda, the January agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, just looking at my notes here. Okay. The item that we had about replacement tree plantings within city, that was, this was on our work plan under tree planting and maintenance events. One of our items is identify and prioritize areas in the city for replacement tree plantings. So I think that includes the street tree program. As far as I could tell, we hadn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, since I've only been with you for a year or something, but I didn't know if there was a system set up or some plan to figure out, besides people just randomly saying like, oh, my street doesn't have very many trees, this one, should we come up, seems like it might be helpful to come up with, figure out priorities of what areas or streets, would benefit the most from trees. And then the city has the money in the tree fund, why not take advantage of it? Does anyone have suggestions about how to come up with a system?
I don't think we've had a system in the past. It often seemed to me that it was individuals who went out of their way to try to find things and make things happen. Tim Hahn was really good at that. One of the things that he was trying to figure out or learn more about or find out what the constraints were on was, I think 35th Ave, north of Ballinger, which has a lot of open space along the sides of the street, where it seems like plantings could be added. We had a few years ago, maybe now, we had a program where homeowners could request trees to be planted in their sidewalk strip, the area between the street and the sidewalk. The expectation being that the owners would be responsible for watering, but that the tree board would help with providing trees and planting. In fact, Tim did most of the tree planting for that.
Yeah, and I remember being kind of a little frustrated, honestly, because some of my neighbors, I'm in Sheridan Heights, and some of my neighbors did get those street trees, and I saw them planted. I was like, what? I never heard about this. I didn't know it was so.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's time to do another round, right?
Yeah.
And we targeted Sheridan Heights because it is an area that has the least plant or tree cover in the city. The trees that were planted were ones that are modest in stature, so that they would not block views, but would still provide shade and cooling and aesthetic appeal along sidewalks and streets. I think there's the opportunity for more of that.
I guess we can look at those reports that Doug was showing us and see and get a better sense of what areas.
Yeah, if we each took a portion of the city and just drove around and tried to come up with some ideas, we could probably put together a list of areas that could use it.
Yeah, between doing that and looking at, Bryn agrees with Dick's idea. Yeah, between kind of divvying up or keeping notes as we drive around, or divvying up portions of the city between that and looking more closely at Doug's maps. And maybe could we maybe do that and report back in like February, maybe, because we've already got a lot of stuff in January.
Do you think it's possible to set up something like a Google Docs that we would all have access to? Where
we could,
if we were to, spend a Saturday morning just driving around our neighborhoods and coming up with suggestions for where we think trees could go. We could just load them into there.
I'm not sure if that is possible due to the Open Public Meetings Act.
No.
Yeah.
Let's double check if there's some way that we can.
And the PRA, the Public Records Act.
Well, maybe if we just report on it at a, do our research on our own, but report on it at one of our meetings.
That would work, yeah.
And
And if you
can-
sent me, sorry to interrupt, if you sent me each of your individual documents, I could compile,
Oh, okay, okay,
send them out as part of the meeting materials and post them online to
okay.
the public.
Sorry, I'm writing here.
Earlier, Dick mentioned a Dropbox account. Is that something we could use? And I know it's similar to Google Docs, but is that a public Dropbox or is that just for? certain
Well,
things?
the issue isn't necessarily sharing how do I phrase this? The issue that I have with you all sharing a Google Doc, like a single Google Doc together, is that you can construe under the Open Public Meetings Act that if there's a quorum of members together collaborating on a document, that it would constitute a meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
But if
And-
you could compile it, that'd be,
Oh, sorry. Go.
sorry.
Oh, no. I don't have anything else to say.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like a good solution if we can each individually send you information that you can share at the meeting. What I'm wondering with other stuff we have going on, I know winter is a good time to plant trees, right? But it seems like it'd be hard to expect everyone to get this done over the holidays. So can we aim for February to compile our info? Is that okay with everyone? Put on the February agenda? Anyone have an objection to that?
What sort of things are you thinking about mostly? Are you thinking about parking or the sort of strips along the road that are owned by the city? Are you thinking about driving by and say, hey, that guy could really use some trees in his yard?
No,
No, I think
I don't think that's a good idea.
No.
Um,
It
so
has
what-
to be public or city rights of way. So we planted some trees up around the reservoir at Horizon View a few years ago. And that there might be opportunity for more there. Street right of ways in neighborhoods where there are sidewalks. It's the city technically owns the property between the street and the sidewalk. Is that right?
Mhm.
Well, it's about a 10-foot buffer between the private property and the road, and that's city owned right away. So, but in the past, the tree board has felt that even though legally, supposedly, the city could plant trees, it really felt it was important to have the adjacent homeowner want the tree and be receptive to that. And in often cases, I see a lot of watering bags up along that the Sheridan Heights area. People seem to be using that. I don't think the city's maintaining all of those. I think people are doing that.
Yeah, I think my neighbors have been pretty good about keeping those
Yeah.
healthy. Okay,
And I know a previous tree board member, when that was happening, did actually go, I think, door to door around the Sheraton
I
Beach
know.
area.
it was Carl and he didn't come to
Carl.
my house. Yeah.
It was Carl, yeah. But
So
Okay,
that's
and
why you're moving out now, Margaret?
yeah, because Carl didn't offer me a tree. No, I'm gonna need your all help with our new property because it's practically tree-less. It needs trees, so. I seem to remember at one of our previous meetings, there was kind of some talk about roads that have culverts and whether those, something about whether we can plant trees in those. Do you remember, does anyone remember talking about that? Someone, I think that was something. Okay, well, let's put this on the February agenda and then, after the holidays, we can all kind of think about driving around and taking note of areas that would benefit from trees in the public right of way or parks, or maybe we can get to you a list of all the places where it could be, you know, parks, right, the exact definition of the city's right of way. Hold on, I'm writing this down. Get it.
Doug, can you send around that document with the map to us so that, or Cameron, somebody, so that if we want to do a little exploration, we'll see what areas are low canopy cover?
We may get into a public meeting things if I send something to everybody,
Oh, sure.
but I can send it to Cameron and he can send it to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be the way around.
I think those two that I showed you are, well, the first one I showed you, which actually sort of shows the individual tree canopies on quite a small scale, would
Yeah.
actually be pretty useful.
Yeah.
You could just
Mhm.
sort of run your eye down the street and see where the trees are.
Yeah,
What neighborhood? So we could, that last time we targeted the Sheridan Heights neighborhood, we could choose another neighborhood. There was an area sort of in the northwest part of the city that looked like it also had less tree canopy, and maybe we could do a targeted, giveaway of trees in that area.
okay. Bryn, did you have something to say, or are you just rubbing your hands? Okay. Okay, so let's aim for looking into this more in February. That's okay. Okay. The next item was delivering the work plan to the mayor and council. That's what I was asked. One thing I was asking Deputy Mayor Cassover about. So I haven't delivered that yet, but it's on my radar. And the next thing was reviewing, mistakenly I said comprehensive, reviewing the strategic plan for tree-related goals. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to look through that. I mean, the section about trees is not very long, even though it says that it's an important part of an important goal. Here, one sec. Cameron can, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna, you found that, Margaret, in healthy environment?
Yeah. Cameron, can I share my screen? Am I allowed to?
Yeah, let me make you a co-host.
I just
So
want to pull
Margaret,
that page.
that link you sent around was to a 5-year-old strategic plan. Is that right? Is that the most
That's-
recent one?
Yeah. So, and Mark, you had said that early 2022 will be when the council is supposedly coming up with.
There will be a planning workshop that'll happen, a retreat, an offsite for a better part of a day. And that's in the past where these have come from. I assume that it will be like a renewal, a 2022, 21, 22, 25 strategic plan for the city, but it may not go that far as to take the form of a strategic plan, but it will be it'll be council's thinking about direction for the city. So, and it'll be documented. So if they call it a strategic plan or not, it will at least have direction in it. We did have the benefit of some people the last 5 years who love to do planning and planning documents and strategic planning and there will be some form of direction that will be coming out of that session. It'll be comparable
Okay.
to a strategic plan, if not something that's called a strategic plan, and it may well be.
Well, that's one thing I mentioned to her that we'd potentially like to have some input. And now I can't find it in my computer. Let's see. I just had it up. Oh, here we go.
Well, that session will be open to the public, and probably, I think comments will probably be taken from time to time during that offsite.
Okay. Am I sharing right now?
No.
No, sorry.
I can share that. I know I can share that.
Okay.
document.
Okay, if you've got it easily, I found it on my computer, but I'm having trouble sharing.
Yeah, let me
I
see
know
if-
it's page 15. Cameron, can you let Doug, there you go, okay.
So you wanted 15, page
Oh,
15?
I think you just passed it.
Oh, you're right.
Yep, keep going back. There we go. There we
It's
go.
telling me that it's page 12 of the PDF, but it says page 15.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Can you,
Everybody see that?
can you zoom
Yeah.
a little, please, Doug? It's been with my glasses. I can't see very well. There you go, up at the top center
there we go.
where, yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
My new glasses are coming any day now.
So this is, I can just sort of scan through it as people look at it and,
Yeah, go to the bullet points, I think, because the rest of it is just boilerplate.
Yeah, it's kind of like lofty goals, but
Yeah.
it's all pretty much
Yes.
lofty goals.
a little bit, oh, there you
I
go,
was-
perfect.
There wasn't much specifics in this, but there was no mention of trees and tree canopy. There
Yeah.
was more about water and sewage and Mackler Creek and Blue Ends Creek and some things like that. So it'd be nice, I think, if the council is encouraged to address tree canopy and tree health.
But it is down here in the second service and policy growth. I mean, the
Yeah, just,
the
whoopsie.
intention of doing something is here, nothing actually being done.
Yeah. Do you all think maybe
Oh, yeah.
we should ask them to be a little more specific?
Well, so that we've done, right? So
Yeah,
as far as reviewing the tree canopy, the ordinance at any rate.
Mhm. Yeah,
Implementing might be the next step, right? Rather than reviewing.
yeah.
That could fit
Right.
under identify opportunities for, well, no, I guess are trees infrastructure?
I don't think we're usually considered infrastructure, maybe, what, green infrastructure as a category?
Environmental infrastructure.
No, I don't know, not usually. But you know, there's also an appendix to this document.
I'm going to go to that.
We also, like on page 25 of the document, there's some stuff, where it's kind of more specific goals that were identified. Yeah,
This is page 25.
back a little more, back there. There you go.
Oh,
That
okay.
last line there just talks about tree ordinance update, code enforcement ordinance update. Again, it's a kind of a very brief reference to something that actually progress has been made on over the last 5 years.
Mhm.
Well, and that's good. That's what
Yeah.
strategic plans are designed to do. So where do we go from here, I guess, is the next step for the next
Yeah.
strategic plan.
Yeah, what do we want to suggest or recommend? How could we come up? I guess we can kind of, look through our work plan for 2022 and kind of figure out what parts, how that relates to the city council. I don't know, how should we do this?
Since the city council is going to be doing this, I think if we provide a statement from the board encouraging them to consider tree canopy and the tree ordinance and implementing increased resources to tree health, whether it's through increasing the the amount of percent of time that an arborist has, or
Yeah,
funding to canopy studies and actually funding trees plantings. Just try somehow to give them a statement of our priority to have them give us a statement that asks them to make this more of a priority in their next
Right.
strategic plan. I guess
Right.
that's what I'm trying to say.
because it's a big percentage of when, at the beginning of the strategic plan, they had those two pie charts with the percentage of the money spent on those different priorities, and environment was pretty big, but it that encompasses everything. It didn't specify trees.
No,
Yeah,
that
just-
probably also includes things like purchase of property for parks and things,
Yeah.
which is
Does
expensive.
someone have, one of the board
Right.
members have an interest in, yeah,
Oh, no.
so it's so light, but that light blue over on the right, 24% for the healthy environment. And so that's spending without capital.
Yeah. And it
And
bumps way
then,
up when you add capital expenditures, which is
yeah,
purchase of property, I presume.
right. Then, yeah, that bottom one, 45%, the light blue includes capital expenditures. So does someone have an interest in kind of condensing what we're working on and our goals on the tree board into this kind of a statement to give to a statement like Dick was saying, to give to the council?
I would think something very brief, like a half page
Yeah,
note, an email note to the council would probably be sufficient. And
okay,
I think Dick mentioned some good points there. I mean, I would reiterate that a lot of progress has been made during the 5 years of the last strategic plan, and urge council to keep continuing with actively supporting the urban forest, community forest, whatever you want to call it, and including those subpoints, like it's very important that we do carry out the tree inventory in 2022. And you know, gosh, consideration of more hours for arborist and the important role that she has.
yeah,
I think it could be something just to kind of as brief as that. Progress has been made, great. We need to keep up the pressure and keep up the being proactive, and climate change is not going to, you know, take away any of the importance. Certainly, it's going to add to the importance of a healthy forest and you know, in terms of looking to the future. And I think it could be just very brief.
Dick, would you have time to write down what you were saying over the
Yeah, I'm
next
jotting down
month?
a few notes and I'll try to draft something and send it to you
Okay,
soon. If I don't do it right away, it'll not get done. And then, you know, you can edit. You're a great editor.
so if anyone else have comments you want to make at this point of things Dick and I should be sure to include in that?
Just a question. Does anybody really have a sense if somebody puts in a tree permit application and there's questions about it, is Ashley backed up to the point where it takes several weeks for them to deal with it, or is she able to do it? I'm thinking mostly, do we want to recommend how much we want to push on more arborist money? And getting Ashley paid more hours. So
There's so for tree permits, they have to be publicly noticed, and depending
right.
on the type of tree permit, the noticing period is either 2 days or 2 weeks. And during that period, members of the public have the opportunity to contact our department and get more information or provide public comment on the application.
But is that once she gets to it, or is that just from the point where they submit their permit application?
That statute, like the notice of application period, starts when we process their application and then they pick up the permit and post it on site.
So how long is that backed up for you guys to process it? I think that's maybe what Doug was asking.
Yeah.
Minor tree permits, they don't require arborist review for the most part. Ashley usually will make a canopy coverage determination on that, but it's relative, like it's a really quick analysis. And she doesn't have to go out to the site to do a canopy coverage assessment or a report on it. But for the major tree removal permits, depending on how many permits and other projects and code enforcement cases that she's working on, that those permits could be turned out in as fast as 2 weeks or as long as up to 4 to 6 weeks, depending on whether the correct information was provided at the time of application submittal. Sometimes people will apply for a tree permit and not realize that they need a major tree removal permit, and then they need to provide more information with their submittal.
Okay. So it's not all Ashley's time, it's some of it is the applicant's lack of info and they have to come back with that.
Most of the time, like right now, Ashley is faced with an inundation major tree removal permit applications and
Mhm.
then code enforcement cases. But if someone from the public contacts her, which is very rare from what I've seen, but if someone from the public contacts her and wants to find out more information, I'm sure that arrangements could be made to where either she can meet with them at City Hall or I can meet with them. Usually when people request information, or request to like, at least in my experience, whenever I've had a public notice out and people have asked if they could come to see the application documents, it's
Mhm.
usually just we throw them. Well, that sounds wrong, but I grab the file and then once they arrive to City Hall, I meet with them for like a short, like 5 minutes, and I show them the application materials, and then I kind of let them do whatever they want
Okay.
until they're done reviewing the file.
So I guess what I'm asking is maybe a little different. If
Okay.
somebody's trying to cut some trees down,
Mhm.
is it likely that there's enough delay on Ashley's part because doesn't have that many hours, that they're gonna go home and say, geez, I sent this in 6 weeks ago and I'm still waiting to hear back from the city so I can get these trees out? I mean,
Mhm.
that's the sort of thing that, Mark, makes constituents angry. And
Right.
it's pressure for loosening the ordinances, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't sound like that's really a problem, but that's what I'm asking about. Really is, is it annoyingly slow?
If it's 4 to 6 weeks, that sounds like it could be a problem.
It is.
I just threw that number out.
I would
If
say
it were to take that long, I think people would get mad.
Mhm.
I would say so. Yeah. Sometimes people get frustrated, and they're like, "Where's my permit?" And
Mhm.
certainly, right now, I would say the normal like timeline for Ashley's review is definitely being held up due to the large amounts of permit application that she's received. And then, so Ashley, she reviews tree removal applications. She reviews active building permits and other land use permit applications that are in process. She handles code enforcement cases. And then from time to time, she does work with the tree board. And there are other tasks that she takes on as well. Like today, she submitted the the city's Tree City USA application for the year for 2022, I believe. And it takes around a month to gather all of the information. So I think Ashley, I think the city could benefit from Ashley having more hours, just with that regard. But it's not necessarily my call.
Well, in my humble opinion, the city could sure benefit, especially both the environmental goals in the strategic plan, but also like you were touching on, Doug, one of their goals is about like being transparent and good customer service. And if Ashley had more time, that would address that issue too.
I think what we're talking about is, we've been saying is, if the board wants to recommend some things to the council, would that be one of the items that might be mentioned as for council consideration? And if so, on what basis? And I don't think the urging the council to consider that needs to be a thorough, study of Ashley's time and how it can be improved. But it might be, Margaret, that if you're going to planning a conversation with Steve Bennett, who she reports to, you could ask him directly. Your sense is that a lot goes into that job, and that more hours would be beneficial.
Yeah. Okay.
Does he see ways in which the cities, our care for our forest is suffering, or could our tree stewardship be improved by
Right.
having arborists have more hours? I mean, I think it would be reasonable to ask Steve what he feels, because he has to deal with complaints and to deal with other things.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. Steve's gonna hear from me. Okay.
Does this need to go into the strategic plan business, or is that just something we ought to
I think you can,
just be done by talking to Steve?
yeah, I think you can stop sharing a lot. Bryn, did you want to comment on something while he's still got this on the screen?
Yeah, no, not that specifically, but what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
And Mark talking about contacting Steve and talking about adding hours to Ashley's day or paycheck. My question is, does this have, it seems to me, maybe you and Dick have some feeling about that. Does that have any bearing on what the three of us were talking about in our committee meeting regarding Ashley's time and having possibly some volunteers to help her with identifying trees? I mean, do those two things go hand in hand or not?
yeah, maybe so. So
And besides that, in addition to that, should we, I mean, I haven't put in my call or written to Ashley regarding that. I have some specific questions for Ashley that I've written down. I've just been busy with other things. So should we contact her first, get some answers before talking to Steve?
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, we can run our idea by her. So that if maybe I'll put that thought on hold for one moment. I'll just ask if anyone else wants to comment on our input to the council about the strategic plan at this point. Are we?
Anybody just has some quick ideas they want to throw out, I'm jotting down notes.
Okay. Thank you, Dick. And I'm happy to be, you know, I like to edit, but you've got I like for you to get the knowledge down and you're a good writer, and then I can like move a comma and say that I edited it. So, yeah. Okay. So the next, oh, Doug, I guess you could stop sharing your screen now if you want. Thank you. The next item was outreach initiatives, and this is what Bryn was referring to, that Dick and Bryn and I met to think about better ways to reach the public in Lake Forest Park about the value of trees and what the tree codes are, things like that. And we came up with two ideas. I think it was Bryn and Dick that came up with them, and I just enthusiastically cheered them on. The first was an idea that it turns out Cameron told me that in their staff meeting, they had been talking about the exact same kind of thing, which is sending a letter to new homeowners in Lake Forest Park. So he said they had just been talking about something like tucking it in with a new resident's first water bill or sewer bill or something. So Dick and Bryn and I were concerned with like the story Ashley told us just last month about a brand new homeowner not knowing the codes and having a tree cut down without realizing they had to get a permit. And so we thought, first we thought about reaching out to realtors, and I talked to one who's real experienced in Lake Forest Park, and she said, there's no way a realtor could come from anywhere to sell someone a house. And probably most effective is to reach out to people as they move into the city. So we discussed coming up with some sort of welcome letter to get out to new homeowners that's, you know, welcome to Lake Forest Park. You can't just cut down a tree, but saying in a nice way, you know, pointing them towards the codes, giving them some helpful resources for, you know, native plant lists, things like that. Maybe tucking in a couple of the brochures that the planning department has about pruning and tree choice, some info about the benefits of trees and why we value them here. So we thought that might be really effective in preventing some of these code violations that have come up, where people just don't know any better. And the other idea we had was doing volunteer consultations and being kind of as tree board volunteers, anyone who's interested, being perhaps a first line of contact when someone puts in a tree removal application. I know Dick and Bryn noticed that in Ashley's last report, so many of the people had so little knowledge about trees that they didn't even know what species to put on the application. So we thought that might be really helpful, especially since Ashley's backed up and has told me she doesn't really have time to advise people when she goes out. Wouldn't that be cool and hopefully really effective if we can make, as volunteers, we can make contact with people who applied for a permit. One or two volunteers can say, hey, we're volunteers. The city's not, doesn't have to go with our advice, but we can come out and look at your yard, take a look at the tree, maybe, if you do end up getting your permit, we could suggest some good replacements, some sighting, we, kind of give you we maybe can't say tree consultation since we're not certified arborists, but like garden consultation. So we thought that might be a really effective approach, because sometimes it seems like we do our best with general publicity and newsletters and things, but the most effective is really individual contact with people. And especially when these folks are waiting for their permit to be approved. And I know that the folks that Dick and Julia reached out to with those tree, when they won the Ivy Out contest and they got their free trees and you guys came and consulted, it sounds like they were really appreciative of that and liked getting the info. So those were our two ideas, the letters to new homeowners and these figuring out who's interested in volunteering and, working with the city to figure out how we can do that legally as volunteers without these folks thinking that our advice is the official city advice. Dick and Bryn, do you want to say any more about that, or does anyone have comments or feedback about that?
Well, I would second what Margaret said about when we gave away trees for the Ivy Out contest. Julie and I visited each of the 4 winners, which were the only 4 participants. And
You don't have to say that.
and they were so pleased to have somebody just come out and look at their properties and talk to them about, what they could do. And I think we would want to do this in a non-threatening way for people. Oftentimes putting in a tree permit is sort of a difficult thing for a homeowner. They think it's adversarial with the city, and
Yeah.
it would be nice to try to put a little more of a citizen's face on it by giving someone the opportunity to have someone come out and to talk to them, with the understanding, as Margaret said, that we can't be making decisions or statements about city policy. So, in terms of our being able to interpret the ordinance, anything we would say would have to be with a full caveat that that's just, our
Suggestions.
recommendations or opinions, something like that. And I don't know to what extent liability from the city's perspective would make this a bad idea. Maybe Mark or Cameron would have some better idea on that.
Bryn, you had your hand up.
Yeah. There's so many ideas floating around. I agree with Dick and with what he had said. The other point that I'd like to bring up, and I think this is an important one, is the idea of sending out a letter. That's a good idea. And even those pamphlets that we had at the tree board table. I've lived in Lake Forest Park for 6 years and I've never seen those until this month or this last month. But I think that personal connection face to face really helps. I know while I was there at the tree board table, I talked to 3 or 4 or 5 people. I don't know who it was. I know Dick did the same thing. You, Margaret, did the same thing. And, I think that really, really helps if people know that they've got, in quotes, a shoulder to cry on, because as Dick says, many times I think this whole tree removal thing, they think they're going to be in for a big argument. Many times they just don't get it. They don't understand. They don't know what they're doing. They think maybe they need to have this, oh, I'm sure this tree needs to be removed. Well, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you don't have to spend $3,000, $10,000 removing that tree. Maybe all you need to do is trim it in a specific way. So that kind of mano a mano connection might be much, much better. But as Dick says, we've got to talk to Mark and or Cameron or anybody else. I mean, does that put us into a liability issue, and is that a bad idea? So that's all I have to say.
I see it very easily becoming a liability issue or problem. I'm sure the attorney could weigh in if you were doing that. But because some of us are able to talk more, knowledgeably about that kind of trimming that you referred to, Bryn, and others of us, might recommend something that was not really good. Others, people like me, if I were in that category, I would, say there might be trimming that you could do, but you really need to consult an arborist about that. And not try to, make a recommendation by myself. So, but I think the major thing to that, it's a kind of neat idea. Voluntary basis, if people would like to have a member of the tree board come and just visit with them, talk to them about trees, without trying to get, offer guidance or anything, but just the demonstration that there are actual living people in Lake Forest Park who care about trees and are working to preserve trees, and our community forest, I think is good to convey to people, and if they meet the people who are doing that. I think they're two very separate ideas. I do think there's a very interesting packet that could go out to new homeowners. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there's actually a summary of the tree ordinance is one of those documents that's down there by the planning department.
Correct. We have a help topic available.
Yeah.
It's not very, it's concise in terms of explaining the tree code, because the tree code is quite dense.
Yes.
But I would say that the help topic is still pretty dense, and we have two.
One for developers, one for private parties.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, anyway, that might be a nice thing that still might want to take. It sounds like from what Cameron says, going to take a closer look at that, but it might still be a nice thing to include along with just a welcome letter. And we've worked hard over the years in Lake Forest Park, and we've seen the results of that in terms of the quality of our forest. And so we do it is regulated. And here's a kind of a summary. You might want to find out more by looking at the code or talking to city arborist or somebody at City Hall about that. Cameron, call Cameron and talk to him about it.
Yeah, Bryn.
Well, just one other thing, Mark, those are all very good thoughts, and I appreciate hearing those. And you're right. If one specifically goes out to a homeowner and says you need to do A, B, C, and D, that might be construed as being liable, especially if you're working, if they think you're connected to the city.
Yes, as you are.
That's right. But being out as a member of the tree board. However, I will say that, and I told Dick and Margaret this, that about a year ago, I offered my services on Nextdoor to go out and look at people's gardens and to just kind of help, brainstorm with them about garden renovation. And while I was out there in the field with lots of people, I found that there's a couple of repeating issues. And the one was the issues of treating a tree in a very specific way that will enhance the disease of a tree. Meaning that a lot of people have a tendency to pile, for instance, the soil up around or mulch up around the trunk of a tree very close. And just things like that that are just extremely basic and kind of no brainers as far as I'm concerned. It just doesn't make sense that somebody does that. Now, I don't know, does that, if I go out and I say, well, I'm on the tree board and gosh, you should maybe think about pulling that mulch away from the
Mhm.
trunk. I mean, is that a liability there? I mean, automatically?
How about this? I'm so excited about this, but I see our time is running short. Bryn, do you want to, I know you're composing a note to Ashley. Do you want to run these two things by her, the letter to the new homeowners and the, volunteer garden consultants? And then, and I can, I don't know, Mark, should I run it by Steve first about kind of liability issues, or go straight to the city's lawyer to ask him?
Her?
Sorry, I thought you had referred to a male.
Oh, no. No, we have, I don't know. I think it's probably good to run it, to talk to Steve first.
Okay.
About it. And, there's a line there, Bryn, as you're describing, because you have a good deal of background in landscaping and gardening. And the fact that you were able to make those kind of comments, if you're, I guess, contacted as a member of the tree board, and well, I don't know. I guess I want to get more of an opinion. It seems like there ought to be some ground there where, people with like interests in gardening and trees could talk about trees together and share what they know, and
Mhm.
be sensitive to, not go beyond what they know. But again, if you actually have a tree board hat, whether that's explicit or just, given, probably good to get clear about.
What stimulated this
maybe.
whole discussion was the number of blank cells in the column on species on tree removal lists, that we thought maybe we could just have somebody go out and help identify a tree for somebody who's preparing a
Mhm.
permit. And that would be a very minimal thing that we could do that would be helpful perhaps.
Well, one thing you could also do is put a column on the tree permit asking for the species, because it doesn't.
Oh,
So one of the
It
reasons
doesn't
people don't put in
actually-
species is nobody asks.
I
it
didn't know
does in
that.
Ashley's report, but does it not even ask on the application?
I can share that screen if you want to. I've got this somewhere.
Oh,
Can I interject?
Hmm?
Can I interject really
Yeah,
quick?
of course, Cameron would know.
From my experience working at the counter and intaking tree permit applications, I would say the vast majority of the time people at least have a vague idea of what the tree is. Most of the time though, people, from my experience, people are able to, especially for minors and majors, because for a major tree removal permit, one of the requirements for the application is a tree risk assessment and an arborist report. And that usually will include the tree species. But I'd say in terms of like the unknown portion, like people not knowing what trees they're looking to remove, like what the species is, usually we encounter that with minor tree removal permit applications. But I would say more often than not, people at least know if it's a cedar or a fir. And they're pretty, I don't know if adept is the right word, but they're pretty, they tend to like have at least a basic understanding of the various tree species on their property. A lot of times.
I think that's true, but my point is that the permit doesn't ask for the species. So if there's.
And that may be why we saw so many blanks in the table.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Okay.
you don't ask for the information, you won't get it. I mean, you
No.
apparently
Yeah.
do get it a lot of times, but I'm guessing the times we have the information is when Ashley's been out to look for it.
I would think so, yeah.
So, I mean, that's the first place to start is
Yep.
updating the permit form. Another thing that should be updated in the permit form is that it asks if the tree is over 24 inches but it doesn't ask if it's over 36 inches.
Mm,
36 makes an exceptional tree, 24 makes it a landmark, so the tree form is not
Hmm.
it's not our best friend as it currently is written.
oh,
I
okay.
see. Yeah.
Speaking of getting out there, Cameron, did you go to that property today that?
Well,
uh,
okay. I was looking forward to discussing that as part of Frontlines.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
should we move on? We have, hopefully you guys can stay just a couple minutes longer. Because we'll have to, we can report back on these outreach initiatives next month. I'll put that on the agenda again. First we have, is there new business that someone needs, that anyone
I
needs
just
to
want to
bring
make one
up?
last thing on the letter to homeowners. You could
Yeah,
make it very positive as saying, Lake Forest is a wonderful place. And here are all the parks we have. We have lakefront access. We have the tree canopy. By the way, to maintain the tree canopy, but start out by saying what a wonderful place it is, rather than just saying,
yeah,
look to Lake Forest Park, here are the rules you've got to follow.
right. I was
That's
being,
that's minor, but it would be.
I was being sarcastic
letter.
when I said it would say, welcome to Lake Forest Park. You can't cut down your trees. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. No, that parks is a good idea for things to include too.
Okay.
Okay, any new business that anyone needs to bring up before we get to Cameron? Okay, Cameron, take it away. Sorry, I have not left you much time.
It's okay. I can run through this pretty quick. So Ashley notified me that she's probably going to send the tree permit list out tomorrow to you all. In terms of code enforcement, there have been 2 new code enforcement cases within the city. One of them, myself and Nick Holland, our senior planner, responded to. It was on a Friday. We received multiple reports from neighbors of a property where there was a tree company, they were limbing trees. And then it also appeared that they were cutting down trees. Nick and I visited the site, we issued a stop work order and notified the homeowner that she needs to move forward with the code compliance process with Ashley. And then the second code enforcement case, Richard, he had notified Ashley of a unpermitted tree removal on a property that is located within what appears to be steep slope critical area and or buffer. And so Ashley went out to the site today and she notified me that there were potential critical areas code violations also occurring. So we issued a stop work order and we're working on a notice of violation to let them know the steps that they need to take to move forward with their code violations. Both of them, Ashley's still investigating the cases. So there isn't necessarily like a specific number of trees that were affected by the code violations within both of these cases. But I'm sure more information will come out about these cases as we move forward into the new year and into further meetings.
Do you have any sense, Cameron, of the homeowners? Like, were they brand new residents who were clueless, or are you allowed to tell us anything like that?
Yeah. So for the one where I think the first one I talked about, the homeowner is actually a new resident. They're transplants from a different state.
Mhm,
They were unaware of the city's tree regulations.
mhm,
Where they moved from previously, there were no such regulations.
mhm.
And so that, I think I discussed this with you, Margaret, during our agenda scoping meeting. but that was an instance where had we had a resource for that for new homeowners to know the code, it could have probably been prevented.
Mhm.
That being said, code enforcement cases, I'm sure will still happen.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was one instance where it was just kind of, I felt like, oh, like if we'd had a letter to send out to the homeowner along with a utility bill, they could have been aware of the city's regulations
Mhm.
or the violation occurred, because tree code violations can be quite costly, to be frank. And
Mhm.
that's the more challenging aspect. Homeowners, they pay money to have trees removed, and then they have to pay a larger sum to the city once the city makes a determination on like the intensity of the violation and
Yeah.
et cetera.
Well, and the other thing that jumps out at me is just these companies that did the work that should, I mean, does the city have any recourse with, how can a company be allowed to keep working in Lake Forest Park when they've broken our laws?
From my understanding, both the property owner and the tree company are cited under the enforcement,
Mhm.
but it could depend case by case. I don't handle the tree code specific or the tree code enforcement specifically. I respond to calls.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a more appropriate question for Ashley. I think she would have a better understanding of how that works. But from my understanding right now, there's no sort of like repercussion. Like the city doesn't revoke their business license
Wow.
if they chop down a tree without a code.
Like,
A lot-
to me, that's astounding. Like, they
Yeah.
should not be allowed to do business here anymore.
And Ashley told me that she used to work for the city of Kirkland as their arborist, and their tree code in the past, the violation for chopping down a tree without a permit was only $1,000. So
Oh,
a lot of tree companies that worked within Kirkland would end up considering that violation fee like a part of doing
the
business.
business expense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. This, I would like to look into this more, because we're talking about, I decided addressing realtors, that was not going to be effective, but homeowners, now we've got two ideas for homeowners, but I think we need to look into the companies themselves that are doing this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know when I had a tree removed that I got a permit for, and then I hired a tree company to come in and do it.
Mhm.
I don't think they ever asked to see my permit.
Hmm.
And it was totally on me.
I mean,
The case of the one that I reported to Ashley that Cameron alluded to, they took down 4 large Douglas fir trees. 2 of them were really big.
Mm.
And I heard the chainsaws and went up to look, and the trees were already down. And then today they had somebody out there grinding the stumps. And so I sent Ashley another note and said, hey, there's a pile of topsoil and they're grinding the stumps. There's going to be no evidence if you don't get up there right away. And so she went right away. And I was glad about that. But I've tried to see if there were the people working there just had a pickup trucks with no logo or name on the side of it. They had a bobcat and a big wood chipper, but they looked like they were rental equipment, not company owned equipment.
I went out.
I wondered if it was sort of a fly by night operation.
What were you
Oh,
what were
sorry.
you gonna say about that, Cameron?
I kept interrupting you. But when I went out to the property, I'm not sure when Ashley was there specifically. I went out around like 1:30, 1:45-ish, maybe closer to 2. And when I went there, it was just contractors that were a part of what they claimed to be a separate job from the tree removal. They were very adamant that that their company had not performed the tree removal, that the homeowner had contracted a separate company, because from what they said, they were unwilling to cut down the trees. They saw it as unnecessary.
Oh, so they were just they said they were just a stump grinding outfit.
I'm not sure.
Is that
I
right?
don't
Okay.
know if they were grinding stumps.
Well, maybe
I-
this,
I only responded to a critical area code violation.
yeah,
This was the same property where last winter there was a slump next to their driveway that ran 200 feet down the pipeline, the
Mm.
Holt pipeline, which their property abuts. So it's, it's a problematic property. And I don't know to what extent, and that slope had been a few years before cleared of trees, mostly small trees. I don't know if any were large enough to be permit requiring. But that, I've been watching that property for years and not happy with what I've seen lately.
Maybe this is something I should ask Steve about too when I have a conversation with him, just about what are the repercussions for businesses that cut down trees illegally?
Yeah, I'd say that'd be a good thing.
Okay.
But that's another opportunity for outreach too. If we could
Yeah.
reach out to arborist tree service companies that work in our area to let them know that they need to be proactive about making sure that homeowners have permits when they're called out to remove trees.
Yeah,
And some
Yeah.
of the tree companies are, some of the tree companies, there's this one tree company where, I don't know what his role is in the company, but he always comes in for his clients to apply for permits. And I've heard from homeowners that when they've tried to contract tree companies to remove trees on their properties before, that they wouldn't even take a bid without a permit.
yeah,
I think part of the problem is you don't need a permit. You don't need to be licensed in Lake Forest Park to have a chainsaw. And
Yeah.
there's really nothing in practice to prevent some contractor from saying, okay, I'll take those trees down for you. I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
they're gonna follow the directions and won't go off the property. Sure, I'll get it. And you can't deny them a license because you don't need a license for that to own a chainsaw.
Mhm.
These Douglas fir trees that came down on the property near our house were brought down by professionals. They knew what they were doing because they're big trees.
Mhm. Ah,
Well, in that case, it really, maybe someone should look into if they can be denied a permit to work in Lake Forest
yeah,
Park. But I
yeah.
don't-
Okay,
Oh.
another item on my Steve list.
There used to be a part of our code, and I guess it got taken out. A previous iteration of the code that required anybody removing trees with business license, in order to renew their business license to do that work in the city, they had to sign a statement saying they had read the tree ordinance.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're required. I believe that's part of when they go to apply for a tree permit, and if they're a tree contractor, they're required to sign a paper that saying that they've read the tree ordinance and that they're familiar with the code. Because
That's,
when we issue permits, tree permits, the tree contractors are required to have an active city business license. And if you're doing,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Cameron. It's still in the code. I'm just noticing now. It's 16.14.140, requirements for tree services and others doing land clearing and tree removal.
Well,
okay.
thank you for discussing that. I think it's about time for me to sign off.
Yeah, we need to wrap up. Well, I'll report back at our next meeting on if I have a chance to talk with Steve about this, okay?
okay,
Okay, Cameron, did you have anything vital that you need to throw at us in the next 30 seconds? Sorry, I squeezed you out there. Thank you guys for staying. I'm sorry this ran late, and we will see you in January. Have a good holiday.
wait.
Oh, wait.
I have to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, I
move
have
we
to
adjourn.
Need a motion.
Okay, Dick is always ready to make a motion, and I've got a bunch of seconds. Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Wait, who second?
Bryn
Bryn.
seconded.
Bryn,
Yeah, thank you. We're official.
Happy
Okay.
holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Good
Good
night. everyone.
holidays.
Good night,
Thanks,
all.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
You're welcome.